Nice to be connected again. I feel like last week we were here, that we took 1 week off, and ever since I've been feeling like totally disconnected. It's crazy.
Yeah.
I found a really cool find in Whistler. I don't know if you can see it.
Oh, yes, a little closer. Okay, let it zoom.
Hang on, sorry.
It says, it's not really zooming in, is it?
No, and I can't, I feel like double tapping
it says
on it.
Be fearless.
It says be fearless, and it's 2 different kinds of metal, and I love mixing metals, so it was totally made for me. So
Awesome.
Anyways, hey guys, so welcome. We've got a really interesting topic tonight, something that's a little bit kind of unconventional. We're a little bit different in how we view it than conventional wisdom. Not saying it's wrong or bad. We're going to review the differences. But this is, again, all we can speak to is what we've seen and what we feel like has worked the best for us and investors. So it's going to be a little bit different than what you're probably expecting.
Yeah, and what we're talking about today ties in really well with what we talked about last week. Really, a lot of the points tie in together. What we talked about last week in choosing your market. Now, let's say that market doesn't happen to be in your backyard. Well, the next choice then is to invest from afar or invest from a distance. And sometimes that can be another city, another province, even another country. So the same principles apply. And that's what we're going to talk about today is how can you make investing from afar easy on you? Are you going to have to be flying back and forth every week if it's in another province? So what are some little tips that we have noticed have helped investors over the years? Many investors have been extremely successful investing on the other side of the country and done very, very well, but they've done certain things to be able to succeed. And that's what we're going to talk about today. And thanks for saying hello as you come on, and good evening from all across the country. Great to see you guys, and this will be a fun topic today.
Yeah. So last week we heard from a few of you guys that you've been looking at other markets. You've been for whatever reason your market is not going to work for you anymore. It's too expensive. Maybe it just doesn't cash flow. Maybe you're just fearful of things to come. Whatever it might be, there's all kinds of reasons why a market doesn't mean it's bad. It just might not mean that it's not fitting in to bring you closer to your goals. Some goals might be equity appreciation based. Some might be cash flow based. Some are 5-year goals, some are 10. So it doesn't mean it's a bad market. It just might not be the market for you right now at this time, and then you're forced to look outside. And
we have people from literally all across the country. So Ottawa, all through Ontario, Halifax, Alberta, from Vancouver Island to Halifax. So, the markets across this country are some markets are very similar, but some are completely the opposite position right now. And 5 years from now or 5 years ago, they were in a completely opposite position from what they're in now. So markets change, guys. And I think all of you know that. No market goes up forever and no market goes down forever. They do, that little wave, the ebb and flow that we've seen over the years. Every single market does it. So we talked last week about choosing one. Now, let's say that market is quite a ways away. What do we do?
And how many of you guys, after last week's training or maybe before, kind of thought, okay, you know what? We're going to have to start looking outside of our market. We had a lot of people contact us before saying we really need this topic. We heard from some over the last week that said, yeah, that was, it's something we have to look at. We have no choice. If we want to reach our goals, if we want to keep rolling and keep the momentum up that we've got going, we're going to have to leave our market. So how many of you guys said that? Adele, please show your bracelet again. I'll try to show it
there you go.
Stay back.
Here, let me shine the light on.
Oh, there.
There. Is that a little better? It says be fearless.
Be fearless. Yeah. And it's the silver and bronze or gold. No, bronze. Which I love the mixing of metals. So as soon as I saw it, I was like, oh, yeah, made for me.
So let us know in the comments, guys. Are you someone that is looking to invest somewhere other than where you live? Are you somebody that's going to invest at a distance? If you are, put yes in the comments, okay? You're going to invest from a distance.
So
if you're going to still invest in your backyard, put no in the comments. Just let us know, are you investing from afar, or are you going to stick with something close to you? Because that might be good too. So let us know in the comments, all right?
So, and once you've decided, are you investing from afar, what's your biggest fear around it? So we talked to a few people and we heard a few things, but there's a lot of logistics, right? So what's your biggest fear around that? Throw it in the comments. We're probably going to address it tonight, I think, but if we don't, we'll make sure to address it tonight. So what's your biggest fear? Yeah, Ryan Aykroyd, you guys are doing amazing things out in New Brunswick. Why would you change, right? Sometimes we don't need to. Mike and Jess, you guys are in a market that's, quite overheated, and you've got some amazing stuff and expensive. Yeah. So you've got some amazing stuff on the horizon for you. You guys are in an awesome position and have so much to offer. But yeah, you might have to look outside of where you live in order to hit that, right? So invest where returns are best. So Adele said it, and that's a term that Michael Saraceni-Keesfire has coined. He's always saying that, invest where returns are best. Now, we've always known that, but when you have a little ring to it, it helps to keep that in mind, right? So, so investing from afar. How do we do it? Now, tonight, Georgia, so you said like sometimes even in the US. So we're addressing within Canada only tonight. And if you're watching from the US, this applies also in the States. So it's country to country. When you go outside of the country, all of a sudden, both our, tax people, both in the US and Canada, then things change. And in the country that you're investing in outside, outside of your own country, also things change. So we're not going to go into those because that's a whole new ball of wax. But we're going to talk today about, when you're investing from afar, what is your issues? Poor management. Yes. Building a team, not being close enough to deal with it. Yeah, totally, Bernie. Congratulations, Bernie. Bernie and Linda are rolling in their investing in their area. So yeah, awesome.
Not knowing the rules in other provinces. Absolutely, Julie.
Right.
I mean, things are totally different from one province to the next in a lot of cases. So, doing your research and finding out about that is something super important. And guys, point number 5 that we're going to talk about tonight when it comes to investing from afar ties it back into joint venturing. And if you're looking for joint venture partners, if you are looking for money partners, stick around for that point because it's super, super important. The topic we're talking about tonight and the value you can bring to a JV relationship, we're going to talk about that because it ties in so well with this topic.
So if anyone hasn't heard us talk about it before, some of our most successful clients have been a working partner. So get this, let's say they live in BC or Ontario. They invest in, let's say, Saskatchewan, and they are the working partner. They get JV money. They invest it somewhere that they don't live. And yet they are some of our most successful long-term investors. And again, as always, we go in with a long-term view because getting started in real estate is not the hard part. It's staying started in real estate, staying in real estate. And so that's what we really find is that it's, it's super important to look at the long-term outlook. So let's talk about a couple of things, what we've seen over the years. Often conventional wisdom says, easy, you want to go outside of your market, first thing you do is you choose your strategy. Let's say you want to do rent-to-owns, and you go, okay, rent-to-owns aren't really working in my market. What market do they work in? And you find your market. So that's conventional wisdom, and that does work. Then once you find your market, your strategy, then you found what market that it works in. Now you found your market. We actually have a little bit of a twist on that. And the reason is because this is what we've seen over the years. I remember this one group of investors. They were from Ontario, and they looked into Saskatchewan. Saskatchewan was, had some great things coming up, but it hadn't hit yet, which was an amazing time to get in, of course. So they were really determined to go there. They went into Saskatchewan. They bought big. They bought apartment buildings. They bought houses. They bought residential, commercial splits. They bought all kinds of stuff. They kind of went in and bought a ton of stuff super cheap, and had it for a few years. And then a few years in, they fire saled. They got rid of every single thing, and they didn't care how much money they lost in order to do it. And we're going to tell you why. Okay, there's a common theme, there's a common denominator. Actually, this one was a couple. They were investing in real estate. They asked us for a realtor referral in, it was a small town in Ontario, and we didn't have one there. And they were like, oh, well, we really want to go in there. And, why don't you have an investor-focused realtor there? And I said, well, generally speaking, we go into the centers that are known to have great economics. And if they don't have good economics, then we don't have a realtor there. And if that's the case, then maybe that's a sign. Maybe it's because it's really hard to find a good team there, or maybe it's because the market is not poised the way you're thinking. But anyways, they went in headstrong. And again, within 2 years, they were fire sailing everything, because things can go very wrong when you invest from afar.
So what's the point? We don't want you guys to be fire sailing your properties or have to sell them in the future 2 to 4 years because things weren't figured out properly from the beginning. And so, that's why we're talking about this topic, because, investing from afar, like Tiff said, is not super easy. I mean, it can be easy, don't get me wrong, but you have to have certain things in place that we're going to talk about. And that really ties in with our point number one. What is really the most important thing to look for if you're looking to invest somewhere else? The number one thing that you need to look for and get in place and interview are your team members. So you need to build a team. That is point number one. You have to have a team there before you even consider investing there. There might be a really inexpensive property somewhere that may cash flow and it may look fantastic, but if you don't have the team in place in that location already, don't waste your time looking at it.
That's right. You're going to be fire sailing.
You need to have the team in place first so that you're able to take care of things. You're able to close on that property. You're able to have it managed. You're able to get the renovations done. You're able to do all of the stuff you need to do if it is from afar.
Yeah. So just a couple notes. Jazz, thank you. Jasmine Henry has put a link in the chat. If we can't see who you are, if you haven't given StreamYard permission for us to see your name. So if you haven't done that already, click in that link for me, please. Then we can talk to you directly. But yeah, so here's the thing with the team. We've seen a lot of people move into markets because everything else seems to line up. And that's absolutely true. But if you don't have someone that's got your back and understands your market more than you do from an investment point of view, you can end up really kind of lost. And that's what we've seen a lot of investors having to get out of markets they got into because they didn't have the right team. We've also seen where they'll go into a city and be like, okay, yeah, I found a realtor, perfect. They didn't interview realtors. They didn't ask the questions, the important questions that they need to. They just walked in and said, I met a realtor, perfect. But it's really important to have a team in place. Now, what do we want to look for in a team? Remember, our realtors are our quarterbacks, okay? Without a quarterback, we don't have a team. Without a quarterback, we don't have all our players organized. Your realtor and who they work with is really important. So not only do you want to, check and make sure that they're an investor themselves, because just, human tendency is that if they're an investor themselves, they're going to have properties, they're going to know, they're going to have all the things in place that they need to, like a painter and a cleaner and all that extra stuff that you're going to need too, that you can leverage. So not only do they have to be an investor themselves, but do you like them? Can you work with them? Let's say they're just an email person and you need to be able to pick up that phone and call them. And they're just not the phone call kind of people. Is that going to work for you? Because if it doesn't, that can make the difference between you succeeding and you failing at this venture. You need to be able to work with your team. So do you like them? Do you trust them? Do they try to talk you out of things that you shouldn't, even though, you might seem pretty set? Are they okay saying, hey, listen, I just want you to think about it this way because this is my perspective. So your team can make you or break you, both whether or not you like them, also how they deal with things, also whether or not they're investors makes a big difference, because they're going to have a Rolodex that they're going to share with you. And without that Rolodex, you're hooped, and it's hard to find people from afar.
Absolutely. And so, there's a little confusion on the football reference. So, but what a quarterback does, guys, is a quarterback is the one that instructs everyone what to do. It tells them what the play is. You run over there and run 10 steps, turn left. I'm going to throw the ball at you, and it's going to this person. And if that person's covered, it's going over to this person. So a quarterback is somebody that directs everyone. And that's really what your investment focused realtor can do for you, is they can direct you to, okay, here's a property manager that I would use for this particular type of property. If you're investing in this neck of the woods, you might be ended up getting this type of property, and this property manager might be better for that, and vice versa. So the whole point of it is they can start to direct you, so you don't have to do all that legwork yourself. So remember that what makes a realtor business work is if their clients are successful, and if none of their properties are getting filled with this particular property manager, they're not going to recommend that manager, right? So it makes sense for a realtor to kind of quarterback everything for you, point you in the right direction. So that is a great place to start when it comes to, okay, I'm going to invest somewhere where the numbers are good. We've done a little bit of market research like we talked about last week. And if you missed last week's training, go back and listen to last week's training.
And if you're watching on YouTube, we'll put the link in the description below.
So that was how to choose your market. So now you've chosen a couple of markets. Investigate teams, start building teams in those markets, start connecting with investor-focused realtors. If you do that, you're now going to quickly see this market is going to be really easy because I have lots of options. This market is going to be much more difficult because there aren't as many options, or I don't like the options. So that's one of the places we suggest to start, is building your team. And the realtor, in most cases, can be that first introduction into the market. They're going to be able to answer all the questions you need to know.
So I just want to reiterate this. When you're an investor in an area, you're going to need people from that are, cleaners to painters to outside, exterior building cleaners to, tilers, handymen, plumbers, heating people, carpet cleaners, all kinds of people, drywallers, mudders, all that kind of stuff. You're going to need this arsenal of people. And if you're going to try and find these people from afar and then trust them to go into your properties when you're not there, that's a big build. That's a big job for you to do. Whereas again, if you're working with that realtor who has that property manager, who has that appraiser, who has that inspector, who has that carpet cleaner, the property managers are vetted. They know that they're either working for people or not. All of that kind of stuff is super important. And you're not having to build that team in every center like Adele. She's got properties all over Canada. Well, do you think that she's met with or, has all the appraisers and knows them all? And no, but her team has provided those things. So that's why it's really important. Andy had a question. How much capital is needed when looking for a realtor? So Andy, all of these things you only pay them by use. So only if you buy a place will the realtor cost you any money. And actually it costs the seller money. Yeah. It's actually free for you to use a realtor. Property managers, all of that kind of stuff, you can hit that up in your research stages. It
shouldn't cost you really anything to do that type of research, to look for these types of people, to do these interviews.
Yeah, for sure.
So just before we move on, I wanted to also just quickly share our screen here. And I know you never knew we were going to do this, but I'm going to
I did not.
Do this because I just wanted to show you guys that if we actually have 38 quarterbacks across the country, if you go to our website and I'm just sharing it here, it says investorlife.com. And you go down about halfway, you'll see a little box that says connect with a realtor. So you click in there, you fill out the form, and very simply, you will automatically be connected with one of our investor-focused realtors across Canada. Okay, so there's 38 markets that we have a quarterback already, guys. We've done the vetting for these people. We've interviewed these realtors. We've made sure they are investors. We've made sure that they have contacts that you're going to need in these markets. So if you're looking for a particular market and it's not on this list, that might be, not guaranteed, but might be a key to consider another market, okay? And we also have another video, how to choose a realtor. So if there is a market where we don't have a realtor right now, watch that video, because it's the questions to ask when you're interviewing your realtor. So that's a
and
super
maybe
good
we'll
one
have
too.
that posted in Fearless by tomorrow then.
Sure.
Okay, we'll post that in Fearless as well.
So point number one, let's just reiterate point number one. Point number one, make sure that you have a solid team in a particular market before you start investing there. Okay,
yeah,
so that's
sure.
step one.
Liz, I love your question, because believe me, this was my question too. So Liz says, it might sound negative, and don't worry, it doesn't. If the realtor is an investor, why are they passing on these great deals to me instead of keeping it themselves? So many times investors or realtors that are investors themselves, for our realtors, for example, we only allow them to be in our little circle once they've been investing for a number of years. We don't refer them out when they're brand new investors. So that means for a lot of them, they're done their buying stage, for one. But for two, what we always did in our office, and you know, I know the Alberta on Fire team does the same thing. It's like we might get a batch of houses. Let's say we got 15 or 20 houses at a time to sell. And we'd be like, okay, we all want one of these, but no, if they don't go, then we can have one. So we first offer it out to the database. And the thing is that a realtor has a vested interest in making sure that their realtor business is doing well.
That's the key. A realtor has a business of being a realtor as well. So yes, they might be investors, and yes, there might be deals here and there that they're able to buy at a particular time. But keep in mind that investors come from so many different areas looking for so many different things in so many different price ranges that a realtor can't buy everything. And so it would be very rare, I would say, where a great deal comes along. And it's actually very difficult to be a licensed realtor and to buy and sell on your own. There's so many disclosures involved that it makes it way more difficult for them to do it than for them to have an easy transaction and sell it to one of their clients. So just there's a couple of things that hopefully answer that question.
Yeah, for sure. So, Dignaz, I guess, I'll just quickly answer this. Can you send purchase contracts through DocuSign? Absolutely, you can. DocuSign's amazing. You can send anything that's a PDF. It's pretty cool. Let me see. If you are investing in Edmonton and your realtor is in Edmonton area, sorry, I'll just put this up, Harry. If you're investing in Edmonton, your investment right realtor is in the area. Are you suggesting the mortgage broker be in Edmonton as well? Could you use your local person that you had on previous deals? As long as your local person can write deals across, the country or in the province that you're buying in, you're good to use the person you have that relationship with. But the nice thing is an investor-focused realtor, if something comes up, if something comes up and, last minute you can't close, they've got someone like that they deal with on a regular basis and that they work well with, whether that's through email or phoning, or they've got a system down pat. Things can go really smoothly through them as well. So if you've got a good relationship, keep it and honor it. But if you don't, it's nice to always have a realtor that does have a backup for you.
Yeah.
Is that all the questions?
That's the questions. Yes, I believe so. Yeah. Okay. So point number two. So point number one, build your team. Number one step. You have to do that. And we talked about that last week when it comes to choosing a market. But number one step, build a team. Now, what's point number two, hon?
So here's the thing. We had a lot of people that came to us. So for those of you that don't know, we used to have a team of realtors, investment-focused realtors, of course. And we would have clients come to us, and there was two very distinct kind of clients. One would come to us and tell us exactly what they wanted, where, and how, and like jump to it. You get moving on this and get this property for me. And many times when they came in, they were wrong. They should not be buying the properties. And so we would tell them, we would say, listen, that's, on paper that looks really good. But let me tell you, in that area, you can't get a property manager. There's a certain area, two different areas in our city where property managers won't work. So you're going to be up a creek if you end up with a vacancy. Oh, well, they promised me 1 year of fully rented, 1 year rent guarantee. Yeah, well, after that year, you're going to be up a creek. I could give you so many reasons why we knew that what they were planning to do was not the best option. So we would tell them, you know what? Lots listened. Quite a few, though, didn't. And they went to a different realtor who would sell them what they wanted. And guess what? Within 3 or 4 years, we had more people coming to us, literally crying, men and women, and stressed beyond words. And they said, you told us not to buy this and we did it anyway, but we're still asking you for help because we're in trouble. So here's the thing. You're not the boss. If you're going to a professional, if you're going to a realtor that's in the area, ask them. You may not agree with them, and that's okay. Then don't use them. But ask them, what's the best strategy in your area? I love this market. I know that I want to be here. I like your team. I can communicate with you. Now, what should I be buying? Don't tell them. Ask them.
Yeah. So relying on local advice is kind of the point here.
Mm-hmm.
So, what might work in cash flow on one part of the country, a different type of property in a different type of neighborhood might work somewhere else. And so what works in one area doesn't always work elsewhere. So, and that depends on the neighborhood, the city, it depends on market conditions, it depends on the time of year, it depends on so many factors. So really, when you're building your team, and this harkens back to point number one, and they tie in so well, is once you have that team, rely on the advice that they're giving you. And if you don't feel confident in the advice they're giving you, then you go back to step number one and you're building that team again. And so this is really what we're doing here, guys, is building a solid concrete foundation. That's what we're doing. We don't want you to build a nice, beautiful house on sand. Okay, we want you to build a nice, beautiful house, but build it on a solid foundation. And so these are the points that are important to make sure you have locked down 100% before you go ahead and buy a property. You have to build that team, which was point number one. And point number two, listen to their advice as to what works the best. And we don't mean blindly listen to everything they have to say, but they're the experts in that particular region. They're the experts in that particular market. Hopefully they've been around long enough to see the market go up and go down and which properties work and which don't, and all of that kind of stuff. So listen to their advice, do your own research to back that up, and then you will move forward much more confidently. And this will tie into point number five. All these points will tie in, but point number five about when you're actually speaking to your money partners, you will come across so much more educated. But so important to rely on the advice of the team that you end up building.
So we had, just for example, we had a client come to us and they wanted to buy this property. It was a corner lot, so they were super excited about it. Now, me as an investor, they were homeowners, so they don't know any better. But as an investor, I was like, that's a nightmare. Your tenants aren't going to want to shovel all that walk, and then you're going to get notices and fines from the city. Like, a corner lot is maybe not necessarily a big thing, but for them, that was a plus. Anyways, they also wanted to suite this unit. It was not in an area at the time that could be legally suited, so it would have had to be non-conforming, which was fine in our area. At the time, that was fine. However, there was just so many things against it. I said to them, you know what, I don't think it's the best for you. I think you should move on. They didn't. They bought it anyway. They went to a different realtor who would sell it to them, which is totally fine because we wouldn't. But they came to us 2 years later and they're like, yeah, you know that property? Yeah, so this is the deal. We got it all suited up. We did the suite in the basement. We did this and that. And, it's not cash flowing, but it's breaking even. And we're really happy with it. And I'm like, that's so awesome. And I'm like, good for you. I'm like, good. Like, I'm glad to be wrong in that case, right? But here's a note where an investor-focused realtor can really make a difference for you and the strategy surrounding it. Because that unit already had a little bit of a kitchen in it, it could have been grandfathered in to the legally suited area, and they could have spent, instead of the $90,000 cash that they spent on it, they could have spent about $15,000 to bring it to legal status. But because they didn't have the right people advising them, they didn't. They spent all that extra cash. And you know what? It's fine. It worked out fine for them, but it could have worked out smashingly. And it didn't, because they relied on their own expertise rather than relying on a local expert's expertise. So number 3 comes into this. Now, who is a local expert? Now, there's a lot of people out there that are starting out and they jump in and they do really, really well. But here's the difference for me. When I'm looking for a team, a realtor, I don't look at the guy that's got the flashiest shoes or can speak the most eloquently. I look for the guy that has been around the longest, is an investor themselves, and have been in investment circles for a while. Because here's the thing. We're a small community. And when we have people, and even I saw in Houston, that's a small community there too. It's a big city, but you get to know one another as investors pretty easily. And eventually our reputations supersede us. So is it all up to you to find your team, find your market, find your strategy? No, you're going to rely on other people to do that. But one of the things you're going to rely on are veteran investors, not newbie investors. Because let's say just property management. We don't know if a property manager is good until there's a vacancy. Then we see, how did they deal with the move out? How were the tenants that they did put in there? Maybe they paid their rent, but did they use our cupboards as firewood in their fireplace? Like, we don't know these things until there's a vacancy. We don't know, how do they do their showings? How responsive are they? How did they vet the people coming in now? All that kind of stuff. How did they take care of it while it was vacant, especially if you're in the winter and living in a tough climate? So you don't find out these things until there's a vacancy. So that's why you need to rely on long-term investors in that area. Where do you find them? Definitely in Fearless across Canada, we have a bunch of people from every area. So put in there that you're looking for some long-term recommendations and say that you want it from people that they've used themselves, not just I heard about it, and ask them how long they've been investing in real estate.
Yeah, really, that point goes across the whole board. When you're relying on somebody's advice, make sure that the person that's giving you the advice has been in the industry, or been doing it themselves for a significant period of time.
Not just learned and know how to talk really well and be able to get you
so
commits.
The longer somebody has been doing it, obviously, in most cases, the more experience they have. They've been through the ups, they've been through the downs. So speak with the veterans in that area. If you're picking a particular market, get to know some of the other investors investing in that market. Why did they choose that market? What are some of the reasons they chose that type of property, or that kind of neighborhood, or that part of town, or that certain strategy in that market? So again, this comes down to, and this is a perfect, our Fearless group is a perfect avenue for that. If you're looking to invest in a particular market, put a post on and say, hey, what kind of experiences have any of you had in this particular market? Has it been good, bad, sideways, ugly? And the more we interact with one another and help one another out, the stronger we're all going to be.
For sure. So yeah, lots of good notes from you guys and comments and stuff. So that's great.
So that's 3 points so far. Number 1, build your team. Number 2 was ask them and rely on their advice as to what works best in that particular market. Point number 3 is get to know other investors. Make sure they're veteran investors in that area and ask them questions. So those are the 3 points we've covered so far. We have 2 more very important ones. And point number 4, this is a system that I found worked extremely well with out-of-town investors. Because what can happen is, if you're in, let's say you're planning to invest 2 provinces over, okay? And you're not going to be driving, you're going to be flying back and forth. And you plan a particular trip to go there and start looking at properties, okay? So let's say today is what? Today is November the 17th. I'm going to arrange work off, and I'm going to arrange a flight, and let's assume there's no COVID and all of this kind of stuff. And I'm going to come out on December 15th. I'm going to go to Ontario. I'm from Edmonton. I'm going to go to Ontario, and I'm going to go out with my realtor and look at properties. I'm going to buy something in Ontario. I've decided that's my market. And so, this is all hypothetical, but this is what I'm going to do. Okay. So I now contact my realtor and I say, I'm coming out December 15th and we're going to look at properties. The realtor says, okay, that's great. December 15th comes along. I've been getting properties, looking at properties before then. December 15th comes along and the properties that I've been interested in and wanted to buy aren't available anymore. I go out on December 15th and the realtor says to me, you know what? I called 10 of these properties and they're all either pending or sold. I don't really have much to show you. We can go and look at this one, or we can go look at that one.
You booked ahead, so it's not like he's going to say, oh, no, don't come.
And you've flown across the country. And so anyways, that trip didn't turn out that great. You didn't really find anything. You go home and, well, I'm gonna try again on January 15th. What's the point? The point is let's put a system in place if you are going to be investing from afar where this doesn't happen to you. And here's my suggestion for you.
And I think, Andy, you asked this question.
I think the question was asked earlier.
Yeah,
absolutely.
So here's the answer.
Yes, Grant, rent an RV. Go out there, drive out there, spend a month. That's what you could do. Absolutely. Okay, so my suggestion for you is to do this. Remember, you've done point number 1 and point number 2. You have a team in place. You trust their expertise. Those realtors would much rather go out and look at 10 properties on their own than go out and in the same amount of time be able to look at 3 or 4 properties with their client. Okay. Yeah. So that realtor in the meantime, can be going out there looking at properties. He finds one that he feels, because remember, he's an investor, he's an expert, he's the person that you have built on your team. He now says, based on what you're looking for, this is a really good option and this one is a really good option. You look at the numbers, you look at the pictures, you look at the video, you look at everything that you want to look at. Remember, we make our decisions based on the numbers, right? If the numbers make sense, and then you look at the pictures and everything makes sense, and the realtor has gone in and confirmed that those pictures are real and that is what it looks like, and he couldn't really see anything wrong with this property.
And market rents, his idea of market rents, so they're either confirmed by a property manager or whatever, but they kind of have a good idea of what that's going to rent for, and they've done all the numbers for you. Here's my suggestion.
Write an offer. Write an offer on that property.
Okay, let that sink in.
Now, okay. How long do we pause for?
Write an offer.
Write an offer.
On a property you haven't seen.
You haven't seen it yet, but your trusted team has seen it. Okay? Write an offer. Let's assume you get to the point where that offer is accepted. Now, you're going to have a conditional period where you're going to be able to do an inspection, get financing, whatever the case might be. And during that conditional period, that's the point I would suggest you go out and you visit the property. That's the point I would suggest you fly from Edmonton to Ontario or Ontario to Edmonton or wherever it is you're flying. Why? Because you now have a property guaranteed you can buy. You've already confirmed the numbers work. What are you going there for? You're going there to start solidifying your team. Perhaps at the inspection, you can be present there to get to know the property better. And you can actually leave there purchasing a property. So why do we suggest doing it this way? We suggest doing it this way because it's going to reduce the amount of frustration that we see people have investing from afar, flying back and forth. And when they happen to fly there, they're expecting the greatest property on earth to be available. That doesn't always work. So when you wait for the best property to come available, you get it locked down, you get it under contract. That's when you can go to town and actually complete something. And you're saving yourself so much time and effort and money.
So much effort and emotion.
That is the system we found works the best.
So put in an offer without having seen the property. Who's okay with that? And who's freaking out about that? Put it in the comments. Freaking out or okay. Because
or heck yeah.
Or heck yeah.
Or freaking out. So one of the two.
Because you guys, that's what works. So it saves all that time, all that effort. It makes your trip very focused on my intent is to come and buy a property.
Yeah.
And you are only coming here again once you have a firm deal that's pending and once you're actually able to buy a property. So good. See, Grant and Korean rocking and rolling. And they've said, yeah, we've done this, placed offers on properties without seeing them. We did that even within our own city. You may have to do that within your own city if you've got a really hot market where you don't have time to go and look at it. You've just got to get that offer in. So heck yeah, you're okay.
So doing it this way, guys, is what's going to reduce the amount of wasted time, reduce the amount of wasted dollars going out the window, traveling back and forth and looking at stuff that you can't buy anyways. And hopefully reduce a lot of that anxiety that goes along with purchasing a property.
And I want you to take a look at some of these names on here, you guys. These are people that are rocking and rolling in real estate, that are continuing to buy and are keeping up their momentum. And that this is one of the ways they're doing it when they're in a market where they can't do it in their own or don't want to do it in their own market. So these guys that are saying, heck yeah, these are the ones, like if you look at them, they're the ones that are active investors. So these are some strategies you have to grow into. And if you're freaking out about it, that's okay.
And as well, you know, I think it was mentioned earlier, I think Grant mentioned it. I saw the comment go by, it's quite a ways back, but you know, if you're not comfortable doing that without going, you know, go to the market, check the market out, drive around the city, you know, meet up with the realtor, meet up with the property manager, do a prospecting trip to kind of get comfortable with the area. There's nothing wrong with that. Just don't expect to buy something on that trip.
Ooh, yeah.
And then, you know, from that point on, then what if you're actually going to buy something, do it the way we just described.
And I will say one thing is I do have a problem with people that come into a city and do that, because I did that. And guess what? It's so overwhelming. You're now focusing on all kinds of things that you don't need to be. And it keeps it an emotional deal. So I have a question for you. It's any of you guys here invest in stocks? Just type it in. If you invest in stocks.
I know where you're going with this.
Okay, so type it in. Yes, I invest in stocks, or no, I haven't, or whatever. But if you invest in stocks, hit it into the comments for me. So how long we have to do your due diligence? I'll answer that in the meantime, Solomar. So the normal period of time.
That changes.
Yeah, for that market. So it might be 10 days, it might be 14 days. The same thing as if you had gone, seen the property, put in an offer, had your 10 days to do your due diligence, had to come back to do the inspection, you know, and all of that. It's the same timeline. It's just you're doing part of it ahead of time so that you don't have any issues when it comes down to closing.
Okay, so lots of invested in stocks.
Okay, yeah. Of you guys that said yes, that you have in the past or a little bit or lots, doesn't matter. How many of you guys first went and visited the head office of the corporation that you bought stocks in? The shares.
So Grant bought stocks in Starbucks, I think he said.
Oh, that's cool.
So Grant, did you go to the head office in Seattle of Starbucks?
Watch, you know what? Knowing Grant, he probably did.
Go in and check them out. And did you see how nice the chandelier was in their entranceway and how well they decorated the lobby?
What color the carpet was? And if it was wallpaper or paint, you know, did you look at all of those things? Mm-hmm. Anybody throwing? Nobody so far. I mean, we have a 20-second delay, but there we go. No, we haven't. Most people.
What's the point?
I don't think I've met anyone yet that actually has traveled to go and see that. As you see, no, I haven't. So
what's the point?
The point is you buy on numbers.
Yes, exactly. In the same way you buy a stock. Okay, you base on past performance, future performance. What are they going to? What is this company going to do? What are their plans? Okay, I think they're going to end up, you know, making money, or they're going to dig this up or that up, or whatever it might be.
It's a spreadsheet.
You're investing for a particular reason. it's the same thing with real estate, except what happens is we find that as real estate investors, we want to get in there and touch everything.
Yeah.
We want to get in there and like everything and get attached to everything. And why? Well, because real estate, for most part for us, our first time with it is our personal residence. And we think that, every property we buy, we need to feel the same way about. That's not the case when it comes to investing in real estate. We don't need to be so touchy-feely. We don't need to fall in love with it and get emotional. What we do need to know are that the numbers are going to work.
So here's
and that
the thing.
can be done from afar without even seeing the property.
So here is a really good test point for you. If you've got a property that has been pre-analyzed for you, okay, a good investor-focused realtor is going to not just send you an MLS listing, maybe at first, just so you can kind of get to know the market, but they're going to send you a pre-analyzed property that all the numbers are in there. Everything you need in order to make your decision is there. And if you still feel that you need to see the place, you probably are not ready to invest from afar. If you feel, though, that you can put in an offer based on the numbers being what they are. Now, remember, you're going to have a couple of weeks, 10 days, whatever the market dictates, to do your due diligence, to confirm everything is as they say it is. It's not like you have to buy this place. But you'll put in an offer and then do those things. If you feel that you can, then you're probably objectively and unemotionally investing. If you feel that you can't do that, if it's too hard, then you're probably still a little bit too emotional about the journey to be ready to do it. So you might want to wait just a little bit longer.
Okay, good advice. All right, so we're getting to the most important point in my mind, point number 5. Okay, so point number 5 is this ties in so well, guys, with joint venturing. We talk about it all the time. We talk about working partners, okay? And what a lot of people assume when we talk about a working partner is that they have to swing the hammer. They have to manage it themselves. They have to do the renovations.
That's to be on the
And
ground.
that's what they feel working partner means. But let me tell you something. Again, the most successful joint venture partners that we've seen are ones that are investing from afar in a lot of cases. Why? Why would somebody invest? Okay, I'm going to give you an example of one investor that we know very well. He was a working partner. He lived in Ontario, and he happened to be buying in Alberta.
Still does.
And he would get money partners from Ontario, from wherever, his circles, and bring them in, and they would invest with him, and he would buy properties in Alberta. Why would they invest with him? He's not even in Alberta. Why? Because he did the research, because he built the team. He had everything that was needed in order to buy properties in Alberta, where the numbers made sense for him to be buying. So what's the point? The money partners invested in him because of his knowledge, not because he could do a really good job of replacing a light fixture or a really good job of knocking down a wall and building another bedroom.
Or manage the place every day.
Or a
and
really
deal with
good
the
job
tenants.
of being a property manager. Why did people invest in him? They invested in him because he had done the research, he knew his numbers, he could bring them opportunities, and he had a strong team in the area he was investing in.
Yeah. So if you are thinking of investing from afar, but thinking, I don't think my joint venture partners would like that, or how am I supposed to convince someone, to invest with me in a province that I don't even live in? If that's the way that you're thinking, spend some time just reevaluating that mindset, because that's a mindset that says no to you before you even ask the question. And by far, our most successful investors, and I don't just mean for a short period of time that bought a lot of properties, I mean people that have been able to create that freedom of choice and wealth in their family and their life, those long-term people that got into the game and are still in the game, the majority of them were investing from afar with other people's money. So is it a good strategy? Yes. Does it keep you objective? Yes. Does it keep your emotions out? Yes. I just want to hit one point that we missed.
Okay.
Was that, just to be clear, I know we kind of hit it. The best day to go fly or drive to a property is on inspection day.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. That's the best day. You can go in a day or two ahead or stay a day or two longer or whatever. But your best time to go is not before you put in the offer, not before you even, look at or have places, but on inspection day, when you already have an offer in place. Your objective then will be to be there for the inspection, solidify your team, your property management, and then leave with the property, leave winning instead of going home hoping you get your offer accepted and it may or may not.
And eventually, quite frankly, when you do that a couple of times, then you will just have your team do it for you, and you don't even need to come to town. And so we've seen that over and over again. It starts off by coming for the inspections. You get to know the types of properties you're buying, what they look like, what they feel like, all of that kind of thing. But eventually, if you're buying more than 5, 6, 7, 8, then, at that point, you're going to have your team just cover those bases for you. But this is strategies, guys, that will make it less stressful. It will make it easier if you have this solid concrete foundation built, because that is the important part. So let me sum this up because we're almost out of time. Point number 1 was build your team. Okay. Point number 2 was trust that team and the advice that they give you. They're the local experts. Point number 3, reach out to the veteran investors. Get to know others investing in that area. What are they doing? Why are they doing it?
Who do they use?
Point number 4 was the purchasing system we talked about. Go to the property on inspection day. Don't schedule buying trips. It rarely works. Mm-hmm. And point number 5 was this all ties in. When you have this system in place, money partners will be knocking down your doors if you are advertising yourself properly, if you're one of our Ignited members. These are the types of things where money partners will love you. Why? Because you've done your research, you have the team, you have the opportunities, you have everything that takes work. That's the definition of working partner to create. And they don't want to do that. They don't have the time to do that. So that's where you can become extremely valuable.
So, guys, there's a couple things we have for those that, missed the beginning or whatever. We do have 38 realtors across the country, I guess, that we have pre-vetted, and we keep up, with what they're up to, and they're investors themselves. They've been investing for more than 5 years, like lots of good criteria. But feel free to contact us for that. You can go to our webpage and there's a, be connected with a realtor. But if you're not in that area, let's say we don't have a realtor in those areas and you want to know, how do I find one in my small town or whatever it might be? There's both a video that we'll post into this group tomorrow, but also there is a PDF of 19 questions that you want to ask your realtor. So if you want a copy of that, if we're on YouTube, or for those on YouTube, we'll put it in the description down below. We'll put a link copy of that. But also, if anyone needs it that wants it, you can email info@investorlife.com and we'll be sure to get you a copy. So, guys, I love all your enthusiasm. I love that you're like, yay. And Virginia, welcome. I saw you come on. You're like, oh, this is speaking to me. And Jared, Facebook user. This one, we'll figure out how to do all this stuff. but thanks for all your energy. And remember that if you are feeling, I don't know how to get that off now. If you're feeling that you're not ready for it, then you're not. But if you are, getting these properties and able to say to yourself, you know what, the numbers are right, I can do this one, then you're probably ready and you should just try it. Worst case scenario, you don't remove the conditions. Worst case scenario, and do that before condition date if you know that you're not going to. Worst case scenario, you've learned a lot along in the process. So it's a little crazy because what we are recommending here today is kind of against conventional ways of doing this, but it's because it's what we've seen has worked, not what they say to do kind of thing. It's like the street view is how I view it. So did we get any yes, how can you watch this again? There will be a replay. So for the next 7 days, you can just come back into the group and this will be pinned to the top and you can rewatch it. So if you are on the replay, please let us know. Let us know that you're here on replay. If you have any questions, please feel free to ask, guys, because we love answering questions and live. That's like, it's like you need that immediate response, right? The email address again is info.
Put it in. info@investorlife.com. Absolutely. And if you want to be connected with one of our realtors, go to our website, investorlife.com. Scroll down a little bit. You'll see it in the middle. Connect with a realtor. Fill out the form. You'll get an email. They'll get an email. You guys are introduced. You go from there.
And lastly,
No, go ahead.
So if we can leave you with one last thought, it's please do not be afraid to invest from afar. It's a great strategy. It opens you out to possibilities that are not happening in your market. The world is endless. You can be doing rent to owns in Winnipeg with Donna. You can be doing student housing in, Kitchener. You can be doing all kinds of stuff, and your strategies open up. The diversity opens up,
and that's really
the stability factor.
That's the whole point of last week's training and this week. And listen to both of them again if you missed them, because choosing a market and investing from afar are two topics that you really got to get down pat, and super important for you to have the team around you. We talked about that both weeks. But thanks for joining us this week, guys. Hopefully this opens your eyes a little bit to new possibilities, and you can start seeing new opportunities around you, because that's what really this is all about.
Yeah. All right, guys. Cheers. We will see you next week. And we've got some exciting stuff coming up for Tuesday trainings here. Tactical Tuesdays in the next couple of weeks. One of them is like super hot topic. I'm not going to release what it is yet until we have our speakers confirmed. But yeah, it's going to be a good one. So stick with us, guys, and put in your questions as much as you need. We love answering.
Okay,
Cheers.
take care. See you
Have a
next
good
week.